Alrighty, sounds good, Brian. 12:45 now on your Tuesday afternoon, and as is tradition here at 25 News, it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month for October. That's why all the guys are going to be wearing a lot more pink than maybe you're used to. And to help us learn a little bit more about what you need to know at home, we have Dr. Mathilde Francois here to help us understand more about breast cancer and to debunk and some common myths associated with the diagnosis. So thank you for being here, Doctor.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So starting right off the bat here, now I am going to make it very clear, obviously I am a man, so I don't know as much about this as maybe some other people might, but what are some big myths that you like to make sure that you debunk when it comes to breast cancer health?
One of the ones that I hear most commonly in my office when patients come in for consultation with a diagnosis of breast cancer is that they say something to the effect of, I didn't know I could get breast cancer. No one's ever had it in my family. I thought I was fine.
Sure.
Breast cancer affects 1 in 8 women. That means it's about a 13% chance that you may develop breast cancer as a woman just by having breasts. That's the main risk factor. It doesn't matter if you have a family history or not, you're still at potential risk. The other is that women will say, well, I felt fine, so I didn't think I needed to go get my mammogram because I didn't feel anything. Sometimes people assume that cancer will hurt or cancer will have some kind of symptom, and they'll know they have it because they'll know they're sick. And you really don't. So that's why getting your screening mammograms is so important, because it's one of the only ways that we can find something before you develop symptoms.
Absolutely. I think taking a lot of those things into account, I mean, you said a 13% rate there. I mean, that could maybe create some fear in a lot of women too.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest, shall we say, things that create resistance to come in and get checked out?
I think sometimes people like to live in the land of, I'm an ostrich, so I'm going to put my head in the sand about an issue and think if I don't ever look for the problem doesn't exist. The problem is that unfortunately, as it is with many things, bad things happen to people, whether or not they, deserve it or not, whether or not they've done all the right things in their life or not. Sometimes bad things happen, and us ignoring the potential that a bad thing could happen to us can sometimes prevent us from having choices about having to deal with those issues. So I think getting a mammogram is really important, because just because you don't want to have something bad happen to you doesn't mean that it won't. And mammograms can help us find things earlier so that we have more options for treatment, so you have better outcomes. So sometimes getting over that fear and still proceeding with the mammogram is really the best thing. The other times is that sometimes patients have had them before, they're uncomfortable. They compress the breast, which can hurt and not feel super great, but it's very short-lived, and it's a small thing that you can do once a year to help with your breast health and to help keep you healthy in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, as a guy, I mean, what might be some good ways that men can help support their partners, their wives, daughters, sisters, any women in their family or friends that maybe will help bring some awareness to the situation too?
Well, I love social media. I peruse on occasion, and one of the things that
as we all do, right?
Right. One of the things that I've noticed as a trend that has come up, at least on my algorithm, is that mental load for women can be a really big deal. You're constantly having to worry about a million different things all the time. Do the kids have all the stuff they need? Do they have new shoes? Have I gone to their last school appointment, doctor's appointments, things like that? And they're constantly having to worry about so many things that sometimes they forget to worry about the things that matter for themselves. So sometimes, if you know that a mammogram is due once a year, most women get it at the same time every year. Help your partners. You can put a reminder on your own phone and say, hey, I think October is my wife's mammogram month. Maybe I should ask her if there's a day she'd like me to take the kids, or arrange for that so that she can have the opportunity to go do that for herself and do that thing, a very important health and self-care.
Making life easier in general is always a good thing.
Always a good thing, but you can always help encourage and say, hey, I think it's time for a mammogram. Just like women are constantly encouraging their partners, I don't think you've had your physical for this year. Do you think you should make an appointment? Why don't you go to the dentist?
Yep, I've heard that plenty of times, plenty of times. All righty, we're going to have some information on the screen there. Of course, we've got some upcoming screening events to know about. One's going to be in Eureka on the 7th, and then another one on the 21st over in Bloomington. Of course, we're going to be talking all month long about what you need to know at home to make sure you are staying safe and aware. Of course, Doctor, thank you so much. This is a great way to kick it all off.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Go get your mammograms.
Yes, there you go. There's your message to take home after your lunch hour. So, all right, speaking of which, we'll be right back in just a little bit.